If a man doesn't pass a woman's test, he's seen as a beta.
This is the exact reaction from women when men take half of their assets and the court orders them to pay alimony and child support. It's unfair. But when it's the other way around, men seem to deserve this unfair treatment.
Hey guys, welcome back to Gets It Out. Let's get right to it. Now, for today's installment, I have a video here where this woman wants to know what it's like to be a man. She became a man and then realized she was sadly mistaken for thinking guys have it easy because she realized guys have it hard. And now she's seen firsthand. Let's hop right into it.
This arena, it's women who have all the power.
We sit there and we just with one word, no, will crush someone. And the thing is, we don't have to do the part where you cross the room and you go up to a stranger and say the first words. And those first words are so hard to say without sounding like a cheese ball or sounding like a jerk or whatever else.
You never really understand a person until you consider things from his point of view, until you climb into his skin and walk around in it. Welcome to Manosphere Highlights Daily, and welcome to part 2 of our breakdown of Self-Made Man by the incredible Nora Vincent. Self-Made Man, Vincent embarks on a remarkable journey wearing the guise of a man to unravel the mysteries of the male world. I highly recommend reading this book for yourself in this video. Today, we'll skip the 3rd chapter because we have to make a Patreon version because of the explicit information that's shared and won't be suitable for YouTube. So for today, our focus is on the 4th chapter. This is my favorite chapter because in this segment, Nora gets the most relatable experience as a man and encounters the biggest shock of her journey. We'll explore 4 key themes: dating realities, he said, she said dynamic of desire and double standards, bitter women in their mid-30s.
So she didn't understand it before. I mean, I believe she's a lesbian, right? She didn't understand, and you guys already know lesbians have it worse than men, but I don't think she dealt with it on that level. I don't think she's married or really had a serious relationship, because then she would understand. But she's gonna get into it. Let her do that.
Let's talk about it.
I thought dating was going to be the fun part, the easiest part. Certainly as a man, I had romantic access to far more women than I ever did as a lesbian, and this felt like the best of all possible boons.
The journey of the story is the most fascinating part to me. The main character starts the journey with a certain perception, an idea of how life must be. The main character faces the truth. It forces the main character to change. In Nora's mind, dating was going to be the easiest part. She thought this was going to be fun. Why does she think like that?
When I started the project, I had
You know, it's wild, right? She's thinking because as a woman, as a lesbian, you can be somewhere in the gym and you can make small comments that men can't make. You can make little sly remarks men can't make. Where if a man made a sly remark and a woman doesn't find him attractive, creep, jerk, all these different things. But as a woman, it doesn't matter. That's why as a man, I personally don't care. I say whatever comes to heart or whatever comes to mind. And usually that goes all the way with women because you can get away with it. If you're not scared, you can. But a lot of men are shy because they have to be, because they're scared. And that's what we have nowadays. I'm an old school guy. I'm 42. Nowadays, I remember I talked to a girl from my cousin, and the girl looked at me and said, "What are you doing?" I said, "What do you mean, what am I doing?" She said, "Men don't talk to people anymore." I was shocked, but that's what's going on nowadays.
I had suspected that I would find hordes of women for whom Ned would be the ideal man being essentially a woman, or a woman in a man's body. But I was wrong about this. It wasn't that simple. Women's desires were stubbornly kaleidoscopic, and their more subtle proclivities even more uncategorizable.
Love about Nora's book is her wordplay. She uses specific words to emphasize her point. Let's take a look at this word kaleidoscopic, quickly changing from one thing to another. Now, let's have a look at this graph. As you can see, there's a significant gap between divorced lesbian marriages compared to divorced heterosexual and gay marriages. This is not a coincidence because, just like Nora said, women's desires are stubbornly kaleidoscopic, and their more subtle proclivities even more uncategorizable. So if you put two agents of chaos together, you'll have even more chaos. This is where Nora starts learning the male experience when it comes to dating.
Rejection is a staple for guys, said Curtis, laughing as I crumpled into my seat with a humiliated sigh. Get used to it, was my first lesson in male courtship ritual. You had to take your knocks and knock again. It was that or wait for some pitying act of God that would never come. This wasn't some magic island in a beer commercial where all the ladies would light up for me if only I drank the right brew. Try again, man, Curtis urged. Come on. Don't give up so easily.
Yes. If a man doesn't pass a woman's test, he's seen as a beta. She experienced that and probably didn't understand it. She's used to being a woman. She's used to getting away with saying anything she wants.
Rejection. Men learn early on that rejection is part of the dance. Curtis, Nora's wingman, was clearly enjoying Nora going through the process because this is what all men in general experience when dealing with the opposite sex. However, what's interesting about this book is that it came out in 2006. That's almost 20 years ago. This is before Me Too. This is before social media and dating apps blew up. Times only got worse for men in the dating market. Rejection can cause serious problems in modern times. Yet, women still expect men to approach them just to reject them some more. And Nora's experiment makes her realize why the dating experience is not fun. In our next chapter, we'll dive deeper into the aspects of what makes dating not fun for men.
There I was, caught square in the middle of the oldest plot in the world, he said/she said. It was the woman's job to be on the defensive, because past experience had taught her to be. It was the guy's job to be on the offensive, because he had no choice. It was that or never meet at all.
This is pure gold. Choice. An act of selecting or making a decision when faced with two or more possibilities. Men's options are limited. So when presented with the choice to play the game or sit it out, a simple cost-benefit analysis leads to the conclusion.
And this is exactly why. Okay, let me give you an example of before I met my wife. I was on dating apps because I chose that way to find women because I didn't want to be out in the streets talking to women face to face and going to that. But the way I went to go select a woman was I just threw out a bunch of apples. I threw out a bunch of lollipops, threw them all over the street, and seen who would pick one up and eat it. A lot of guys are doing it. They're throwing it out there, and they're doing it with women they wouldn't even see as desirable as what they would like. So that's what a lot of guys are doing. A lot of guys are going for women who are not their first choice. I've done that plenty of times. Usually before, when I was still actually playing in the dating market in the West, I would go for the girl that wasn't as desirable, so I wouldn't get rejected as much. I went for the girl that desired me first, and that's the best thing to do as a man. Go for the woman that wants you.
Conclusion that men shouldn't play at all because the juice ain't worth the squeeze. So if this is a game, then the game isn't fair, and you don't need to be a genius to figure this out. You just have to use common sense and look at it from a male's perspective. The only power women have in this game is the power men give them. It takes two to tango.
They had only bothered to turn halfway around to talk to me, their faces always in profile. Now they turned all the way around to face me, their backs to the bard. I understood this reaction immediately. I had predicted it. But still a part of me resented their prejudices. I was still the same person I had been before, just as any given strange man is a person beneath his blazer or his baseball hat. As a woman, I was accepted. As a man, I had been rejected yet again. I understood intimately the social reasons for this, but it seemed unfair all the same.
Yes, her feet were in our shoes, and she didn't get the same attention. She realized, wow, guys are going through hell. She sees it now.
This is the exact reaction from women when men take half of their assets and the court orders them to pay alimony and child support. It's unfair. But when it's the other way around, men seem to deserve this unfair treatment purely for being men. The rejection part was not the worst part for Nora. The worst part was being judged as guilty until proven innocent.
And what do you guys do?
Nora says the brush-off Barbara Jones gave Ned was typical.
She was just sort of emblazoned with hostility. You know, just looked at you and you saw everything cross her face, which was, oh, God, help me, not again. I'm trying to have a drink with a friend and I've got to deal with you.
This prejudice is something Nora also engaged in and writes about in her book, following the lead of radical feminism and thinking all males were tainted by the patriarchy. Every guy she met was on probation. But to experience this prejudice firsthand struck a nerve. Welcome to the club. There's nothing fun about this.
Did you have any fun?
Rarely.
Having to prove himself was grueling. Nora was surprised that many women had no interest in a soft, vulnerable man.
So how must men feel when it's a true encounter and everything in the game seems stacked against them? They make the move, or the women bluff them, without tipping their hands, into making the move. The guys step out, stupidly, it now seems to me, into the space between, saying something irreversible and frank, a compliment or an outright indication of interest, and most of the time the women step away, or laugh disdainfully, and the guys are left with their ass in the wind.
Yes, and they do it knowing it's going to cut deep, knowing for sure it's going to cut deep, especially if they see you and you're not what they would usually go for. So imagine a guy that has not one handsome bone in his body, and then they ask, especially nowadays, this is back in 2006. You can't ask that question now. You should already know why guys don't talk to women. You should already know why guys get their passport and leave.
That's the sport, and men are the suckers. Women guard the gate and men storm it. Natural selection is brutal, and women do, in the immortal words of Jim Morrison, seem wicked when you're unwanted.
Once again, the wordplay. Stupidly, it now seems to me. Men are the suckers. In other words, the foolishness. Men's frustration is legitimate, especially when they figure out that they've been played for fools.
Don't want to pay for expensive dates. Think about it. This book was wrote many years ago, almost 20 years ago. And we were in 2024, and they're trying to force men. They didn't do that before. They're trying to force men to pay for $200 plus dates. Think about where we are now.
Men are rejected even before they have a chance to go on a first date, because women are the gatekeepers. Nora said women guard the gate. So if you manage to get to the dating stage, Nora provides some great information about women's complex and paradoxical desires in our next chapter.
Pass my test and then we'll see if you're worthy of me, was the implicit message coming across the table at me. And this from women who had demonstrably little to offer. Be light-hearted, they said, though buoyant as Led Zeppelins themselves. Be kind, they insisted in the harshest of tones. Don't be like the others, they implied, while having virtually condemned me as such beforehand.
The sense of entitlement combined with unrealistic expectations is what turns men off. We're not even talking about the shit testing that never stops. It's interesting that Nora mentions that this comes from women who have little to offer. In our previous video with Laura and Steve Urkel, I asked the question, what is it that you gain from having a girlfriend?
Men are typically expected to court women, approach women, ask them out on dates, maybe pick them up, pay for dates, make the first move, etc. What are women expected to do to build a relationship? So I'm talking about that initial stage. What are women expected to do?
Wait, so are we saying that Like he takes you out on a date. Like,
No, he's like, so like when you're like, let's say like the first date, like usually on a first date, like a guy picks you up, like he takes you there and he's like expected to pay, but like what are like you expected to do, kind of like in these like dating like
you're
scenarios?
just be
Bring good
yourself.
conversation.
Be yourself. Like are you expected to impress him? Do you want to do a party trick? I don't know.
I feel
It's interesting how women can't even answer this question. And it's ironic how a woman can only figure out how ridiculous this behavior is when she is on the other side of the table. There's a lack of empathy for men. And Nora explains in her book that women don't understand or care about what men think, feel, or want in this regard.
Do you think women understand what it's like to be a man?
Not at all. No clue. No idea.
The mindset is extremely selfish. Let's take it a step further.
They wanted a man to be confident. They wanted in many ways to defer to him. I could feel that on many dates, the unspoken desire to be held up and led, whether in conversation or even in physical space, and at times it made me feel quite small in my costume, like a young man must feel when he's just coming of age, and he's suddenly expected to carry the world under his arm like a football. And some women did find Ned too small physically to be attractive. They wanted someone, they said, who could pin them to the bed or, as one woman put it, someone who can drive the bus. Ned was too willowy for that, and came up wanting. Yet as much as these women wanted a take-control man, at the same time, they wanted a man who was vulnerable to them, a man who would show his colors and open his doors.
What is that? Like, a man's a take control man. He's going to be so, like, a guy that's a take control man sometimes won't turn it off. He can't be a take control man and be so vulnerable. Of course, men find that happy place with women, but usually they're getting a lot back. It's easier for men to find that place when they have a woman that's finding her place and being feminine and delicate. But nowadays, it seems like that's so hard to reach.
Someone expressive, intuitive, attuned. This I was in spades, and I always got points for it, but feeling the pressure to be that other world-bestriding colossus at the same time made me feel very sympathetic toward heterosexual men, not only because living up to Caesar is an immensely heavy burden to bear, but because trying to be a sensitive new age guy at the same time is pretty well impossible. If women are trapped by the Madonna complex, men are equally trapped by this warrior/minstrel complex. What's more, while a man is expected to be modern, that is, to support feminism in all its particulars, to see and treat women as equals in every respect, he is on the other hand often still expected to be traditional at the same time, to treat a lady like a lady, to lead the way and pick up the check.
Paradoxical, double standards. It's completely normal for a man to feel confused when dealing with women. Men have the tendency to make sense out of everything, using logic and rational thought. Remember, it's okay not to have all the answers. Navigating these intricacies takes time and self-discovery. After all, we're not born with a manual for understanding every aspect of relationships. That's why these videos are essential. We offer guidance and a shining light in the darkness.
My prejudice was that the ideal man is a woman in a man's body. And I learned, no, that's really not. There are a lot of women out there who really want a manly man.
I've read a comment on the Steve Urkel video stating that men don't know how to talk to women. But that's not the point here. It's not about understanding how to talk to women. We're not dating coaches. This is about if it's worth talking to women. Is your time, money, and energy put to good use?
And for the most times, it's not. As a young guy growing up, I say all young men need to learn early. And men are starting to learn early. Because I did it when I was younger. When I was younger, when I hit 18, I didn't go to college. I passed high school right away. Didn't get left back 1 year, right? I got out of high school. I went straight into a sales career. I learned how to sell. One thing with doing a skill like that, right? You can get out of high school and find a job at a decent cable company or anywhere that sells, anywhere where you can make double, triple your money. You can start out making $20, $25 an hour, around $40,000 a year. With that sales, you can blow it up to 80, 100,000. At 18, 19 years old, you could be making 100,000 plus easy. I say if you're a man and you want to become high value immediately, get into sales. Because with that, what you sell is what you sell. And the great thing about it is you'll have slow months. Yes, it's going to teach you a lot about life because you're going to have slow months. You're going to have fast months. You have a month where you make 4,000 in sales. You have a month where you make 2,000 in sales. And then you may have a month where you make 20,000 in sales. But what happens is that month you make 20,000, it covers the other months. So then at the end of the year, you'll find yourself equaling to where you're getting about 50,000 to 60,000, if not more, in commissions added on with your 40,000 that you made throughout the year as regular pay. Ta-da! Now you're equaled up to the amount you're looking for, and you have money to play with, and you're secure. And you always know, and that's one of those skills that everybody needs in life. You need to sell yourself. It also helps out with women. So I say as a man, you want to get on your well, guys are not talking to women anyway, but I would say that would be the best thing for a man to do as a young kid or young guy wanting to be a man. And if he wants to deal with women or even have a future to where he's guaranteed, a certain amount of money, I say do that. But anyway, y'all, thank y'all for watching this video. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'm happy that she did that because she got to see how it is as a man. And I know she respects man to her core now. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. See you later. Peace out.
You give me